This is episode 27 on the Live Blissed Out podcast. Want to learn about how to start a YouTube channel? We'll talk about that. Did you know that it's estimated that 1,000 new videos are uploaded by the time one person watches one video on YouTube? It would likely take 60,000 years of nonstop watching to watch every video on YouTube. Incredible, don't you think? Hello, action takers. Welcome to Live Blissed Out, a podcast where I have authentic conversations with business owners and subject matter experts to help us get the scoop, the 411, and the lowdown on a variety of topics. Tired of hesitating or making decisions without having the big picture? Want to be in the know? Then this is the place to go. I'm your host, Marissa Houston, helping achieve bliss through awareness and action. Thanks for joining me. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional advice. My guest is Andrea Chapman, founder of Watermelon Wishes and Sewspire. She is passionate about creativity and supporting women in business. She taught herself how to sew and launched her first handmade business, Watermelon Wishes, in 2006. In 2015, as a means to give back to the wonderful world of handmade, Andrea launched an inspirational blog and YouTube channel dedicated to sewing instruction. The primary purpose of Sewspire is to convey her enthusiasm for sewing and promote the key benefits of living a creative lifestyle. Andrea believes that creativity is the key to happiness. She is currently focused on growing her Watermelon Wishes brand and Etsy shop, as well as nurturing her ever-growing online sewing community and fulfilling her desire to mentor fellow handmade artisans via weekly live chats and collaborations with the Sewspire Patreon community. For more information, visit her websites at sewspire.com and watermelonwishes.com. Hi, Andrea. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Marissa, and thank you for having me.
Oh, it's totally my pleasure. I'm excited to talk to you today about the topic that we're going to be covering, which is how to start a YouTube channel. And this topic is something that I get asked a lot from people that I know, because when I started a podcast, they were asking me, what should I be considering? And they were either playing around with the possibility of starting YouTube or doing a podcast or any other social media platform to get out in the world and share what they know. And I thought, who better to talk to about this than Andrea, because you are an established YouTuber. You've been doing this for quite a while, and you've gone through a lot of learning through the process. And I wanted to talk about what you've experienced with it. But before we get into that, I think we need to start with a very important question, which is, why did you get started with YouTube? What encouraged you to say, I really want to start a YouTube channel. I really want to do something with this medium?
Yes, when you reached out to me for this interview, that was the one question that I spent copious amounts of time thinking over, because I'm always refining my why for my handmade business, but I had not revisited my why for the YouTube channel, which initially my why or my purpose with the channel was to teach 10,000 women how to sew. That was just an arbitrary number that I selected because I wanted it to be a far enough reach that it seemed impossible, but yet achievable. And so I started with that and told the world, whoever was watching at the time, which was one subscriber, that I was going to teach 10,000 people how to sew, and just started producing content. And then what happened was, then I started to notice that we were forming friendships. And there was this creative connection that was taking place that I did not expect to happen virtually. I didn't even know that you could have that same spark that you might have with someone if you were creating in person virtually. And time again, that started happening. And then we built what I now call the Sewspire community. And it is just that, a community of beautiful makers who are so supportive and so talented that why had significantly shifted. No longer was I really teaching people how to sew. Yes, you can learn how to sew if you watch my videos, but now it's really about connecting creative minds.
And so you're saying that when you started with that arbitrary number, it was your plan. You just wanted something to shoot for, and that motivated you to say, all right, I have a goal. I have an objective. This is my starting point. We'll see where it takes me.
Yes. And I did not have much beyond that. I figured if I taught 10,000 people how to sew, I was good.
Fantastic. I mean, we have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a waste of time if I had accomplished that. But that did change after I began to build this relationship with these individuals and learn their first names and see what they were doing with the tutorials. Then I was invested emotionally in the content. And now this just wasn't about me teaching. This was about us.
Yes, a community that you've created, which is why I believe you came up with the name Sewspire, because you really wanted to inspire people and be inspired as well.
Well, and I didn't know that I would be as inspired as I am every single day.
I totally understand that. So now you decided, okay, this is my initial goal. We'll see where it takes me. What were some of the things you had to consider before starting a YouTube channel? Because, there are obviously a lot of things that come into play when you're preparing even one episode and to get it out there to people. So let's talk about the top things that we need to be thinking about if we were to start a YouTube channel today.
Okay, so the greatest challenge I had at the time when I launched the channel, I was still operating a brick and mortar boutique. And so I was trying to record in the back of that space, which was my studio at the time. And I was just plagued with interruptions. And so I had launched the channel in October, but started recording content in July. And I really did doubt that I was even going to be able to put this together because it was getting so cumbersome to have so many interruptions while I was trying to record, even when I would have the door locked. People knocking on the door, noises or what have you. So the biggest consideration when creating video content, or even you, I know from your preparations, deal with this with the podcast, is those outside interruptions, those unexpected noises, just even that break in focus or concentration is unnerving. So that was the first challenge. And it actually was one of the reasons why I closed that brick and mortar, is because I wanted to find space that I could record without interruptions. So you have to think about that. Not everyone's going to run out and rent commercial space to make a recording, but do you actually have a space where you're not going to be interrupted and can record? And sometimes it's for several hours at a time. So we're not talking about a 20-minute phone conversation. You need to probably block off the better part of a day to create even a video that's maybe 30 minutes to an hour long. So that's the first consideration there, is where am I going to produce this content at? Then, of course, you're going to need to know how to use your equipment. You're going to have the equipment. So when I started, I got a new computer. I just went with a MacBook because that's what I was comfortable with, and a GoPro. And I did not buy a microphone.
Wow.
Which, because I had no experience, I did not know that the GoPro microphone is less than ideal for recording.
Yeah, part of the learning process, right?
Yes, it's great for action outdoor content, which is what the GoPro is designed for. So I'm trying to use it to record instructional content. And so that was some troubleshooting and a learning curve. And again, another point where I was discouraged. I'm like, maybe I'd spend all of this money and I still can't do it. So then thankfully, people pointed out to me, you sound awful. We can't hear you. Are you in a garbage can? Okay, what do I do? And so then there was one subscriber who still tunes in every single week. If she listens to this, she'll know exactly who she is. Her first name is Pam. She wrote me a very kind but purposeful email telling me that she would even personally pay for the microphone, but I had to get one. because I was being a little stubborn that I'd already spent enough money. I wasn't spending any more money because I didn't know if this was going to work. And so she did offer to buy the first microphone.
Wow. And it's funny you say that, Andrea, because most of us, when we look back at our very first episode, it's completely different from where we're at today, right? Yeah.
Many times I have wanted to delete them. Yeah, it's almost embarrassing, but I don't because it is proof.
It is. And it just shows that none of us come out of the gate doing great things. We start somewhere and we start to learn from the people that listen to us and follow us. And then we adapt and then get better and improve. And that's life, isn't it? So it's nice to see. And at the same time, we're so hard on ourselves that looking back at that is reassuring, isn't it? Because then you're going, oh, I really did improve from that first one.
Oh, yes. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it makes you more grateful. You're sitting there going, all right, yeah, I'm much better now. It gives you some hope.
It does. So with that being said, you do have to remain open to the critiques. And I think critiques are very different than criticism. But people are going to critique your content because that is the world that we live in with reviews and comments and thumbs up, thumbs down, and hearts. That is our world. And people are conditioned to offer their opinion on your content. So you need to, as a creator, be able to take that input and turn it into something positive, regardless of whether the commenter's intention was positive or not. It doesn't matter. It's just what you do with the information is what matters. So I eventually did give in and buy a microphone, and since then have bought an even better microphone. And you grow with it. But I could have easily started fighting with people over the sound or debating if they know how to use their computer or if they can hear, say, or something, that would have served no purpose for me, right?
Yes.
But instead, I didn't do that. I'm like, okay, maybe there is something to this. And there was. They were right. I did need a microphone. I just didn't know it.
Yes. And sometimes it may be very valid, like the feedback that they were sharing with you. And other times it's a preference thing. You can go crazy with equipment. You can buy all kinds of fancy things and spend a lot of money. But there are also pieces of equipment out there that are reasonably priced that can really still make you sound good and look good. It really is a personal preference. And some people want to go all out and some people don't. But at the end of the day, it really boils down to, especially in YouTube, they need to be able to see you clearly and follow along, hear you. And so if you're meeting those basic expectations, then most people will be satisfied.
And I think, too, some of it depends on your interests. Like if I was really interested in digital recording equipment and sound equipment and lighting and so forth, then I might be more prone to research that and spend more money on that. But that wasn't my passion. I'd rather buy fabric and have a nicer sewing machine,
Exactly.
I needed the equipment to accomplish the mission, but I'm not passionate about the equipment.
About all the technical stuff, right. And there are people that are, and the ones that are, they have these, real elaborate studios, but they're still meeting the same goal and objective that you are. And so it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of what you're comfortable with, and the choices that you make have to be in line with where you want to take it. And the equipment that you picked is doing the job. I watch your shows all the time. Every video, I'm subscribed. So when it comes on, I listen and I watch, and I have no problem following along, listening to you, getting excited about each episode. And so if you're able to achieve that, then your equipment is ample. It's doing what it needs to do.
It is. And I think with the phones, the advancements that have been made with the phones since I started the channel, you could easily run a YouTube channel now with your headphones and telephone if you wanted.
Yes, it's amazing. The technology that we have today is incredible.
I agree.
And so then, Andrea, what about promotion, growth, and monetization? Because I think that's definitely an area that people are challenged with because, you're out there, you're putting content, you're starting to grow followers because the people that want to learn from you are tuning in. But then how do you reach out to people? How do they even find you? Aside from build a community, you're obviously wanting to provide value and give free content, but you're also building a business and a community and trying to grow and getting the word out there. What kind of challenges did you come across with that? And what are some best practices maybe that you can recommend to help people get the word out if they were to start their own YouTube channel?
So fortunately for me, when I began the sewing YouTube channel, I had already started a channel for my handmade business. And so I was able to pull from that community. And a lot of those people followed me over. So that gave me a little start. I think within the first year, I had around 2,000 subscribers. So that's not a lot by today's standards, but when you started with none, it's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
In 2015, 2,000 was the benchmark in order to monetize your channel. And this is a benchmark that's set by YouTube. I don't know what it is now because I haven't had to review the criteria, but back then you had to have 2,000 subscribers. So once I hit that mark, then I could monetize the channel, which to most people means run the ads on the channel. And so I went ahead and I did that. And I think a common misconception is that you can make a lot of money just by running ads on your YouTube channel. And this will give some perspective. It took me 2 years from the start of the channel to earn $100 a month from those ads. So that's not a lot of money. Now, this wasn't how I intended to earn my income because I already had my handmade business. This was more for me a means to share and teach and inspire, as we covered. But the $100 a month, what that did was allow me to buy more materials, to buy a better mic, to continue my learning process. And so that sense has grown, but then I was able to introduce additional revenue streams into that, like my PDF tutorials. And we launched a Patreon community, which is membership based, and t-shirts or whatever we were working on at the time. I've sold fabric before. So whatever you want to sell to your community, you can, and that's separate and above and beyond the ad revenue. But the ad revenue is useful and it will start to accrue after you build your community and acquire more subscribers, but it could take you years. I think it's really unrealistic unless you are an overnight sensation in the genre of instruction and DIY. I don't know if we have any overnight stars. It's a process and you have to build those friendships and build that community. And the way that you do that is to be consistent. So you have to show up and be willing to create new content and not get paid for it.
Yes. And to your point, there's a couple of things you brought up. So this one obviously is sustainability, meaning you really need to be committed. You need to go do it over and over again and just let it take you where it takes you, because the goal is to build a community, share, give value. And then you can look at other supplemental means to monetize, because it's not solely on ads. There are a lot of other things you can do within the community, because now you've built that community, you have trust and you're giving them value, and they want to give back because they appreciate you and they enjoy what you're providing for them. And so then it all comes full circle. And then that's when you start to see things moving in the right direction.
Yes. And then you have decisions then that you can make, as to if you want to increase the number of videos that you're going to produce. Like for me, I was able to launch the quarterly masterclass this year as a result of the Patreon community and their support, which that takes at least 40 hours of time just to prepare the instructional content for. So you probably would not undertake such a huge initiative if you were just making $100 or just earning $100 a month, just because it wouldn't be practical to divert that much time and attention. Whereas before, just producing one video per week, and when I started started out, I wasn't even consistent with one video per week. That was not such a big trade off. But now I am able to divide my time after we just celebrated 4 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. This coming October will be 5 years, and it does truly feel like a blink. And I now am able to divide my time equally between the Sewspire community and my handmade business.
Congratulations. I mean, that is such an accomplishment. I really like the fact that we're sharing with the audience that nothing is achieved without a lot of hard work and passion and dedication. And you need to have consistency, and you really need to put it out there in order to see results happen. But I know for a fact that there are a lot of people who tell me they want to start YouTube channels, they want to start a podcast, but they're so afraid. There's a lot on their minds that is telling them not to do it because of fear. And I wanted to ask you, when you made the decision to start the channel, what were some of the limiting beliefs that you put on yourself that perhaps prevented you from doing it, or maybe made you feel like you weren't able to achieve the goals that you set out to do?
For me, the first concern that I had was that my purpose or message would not be obvious. And I think that's because I had said I want to teach 10,000 people how to sew. But under that really was this desire to connect. I had just not pinpointed that yet. So I wanted to find other creative people to connect with and have that experience of bonding and sharing and inspiring one another. But I didn't even know that that existed. So somewhere I think in my subconscious, I knew that's what I was after. And that's what just kept pushing me along. But I didn't know what it would look like. I didn't know what it would feel like. And I certainly didn't know what to call it. Right?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't just show up and say, I want to make 10,000 new friends. Yeah. I mean, I could have, but I might have gotten a lot of interesting comments.
Yeah, no doubt. Did you ever go through some things in your mind that made you feel like you weren't adequate enough to do it? Or what kind of fear did you have to face or overcome when you decided to actually turn that camera on and start talking to the world?
Oh, for sure. Well, the first thing would be that no one would watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, and then I would have 4 kids and a husband going, oh, yeah.
They're all looking at you like, you're going to do what?
And they were, and they all admitted that one by one. Yeah, we didn't know if it was going to work out for you. They do not say that anymore. In fact, I catch the kids all the time kind of bragging about it. And sometimes they'll be in school and the notifications will go out for the videos because I upload those at noon, which is in the middle of their school day. And their friends will come up to them and say, your mom just uploaded.
And they must be thinking now, wow, what a cool mom I have. She's a YouTuber.
And they do. And they say that. But there was, at least a couple of months for sure where I wasn't cool. When I started in the shop there, and then some of them I would record from our living room too. And so I was just a woman with a camera talking to herself.
Yeah. And doesn't it feel like there's no one out there? You're just talking to a camera and like you don't get anybody responding to your whatever. So it feels kind of weird.
Well, in the beginning, it definitely did. But now I am completely in the zone. It's like there's no camera and I'm just one with the project and the people. So to me now it does really feel natural. But in the beginning, not at all.
I can relate to that, particularly because when you get people finally responding or giving feedback and commenting and you're starting to see people view your episodes, right? Then you're like, there's people out there and they're listening and they're watching. And so then you start to realize that you're not alone. And then your mindset is completely different. It's not you and the camera anymore. You're literally talking to people in front of you. It's just you're doing it through the camera.
Yes. And I have had over the years some people confide really heartwarming stories with me. And I think a lot of people will connect with this, that, they turn to YouTube almost as a source of comfort and a distraction. And I have had so many people share obstacles that they were able to overcome as a result of watching my videos. For some of them, it was just pure comfort, just knowing that there was something that they enjoyed and they could watch that and be distracted for a period of time. And then for others, it was skill-based and they learned how to sew, and the actual art of sewing and that creativity helped them through whatever they were going through. So once you hear a few of those stories, you're out of that, oh, is anyone listening? Will people like what I'm saying? And you're realizing there actually are people counting on you to show up.
I hear exactly what you're saying because I get that too. I mean, people literally will email me or send me a message and go, that changed me. I'm so glad that I listened to that episode because it made such a difference for me. Thank you. And that just warms my heart because it means I'm providing some value to somebody out there. That is exactly what I want to do. And so I get it. It just validates your passion. It makes you even more excited to put more content out there that's going to help people and make a difference in their lives in a good way.
Yes. And then that brought me back to the 10,000 people. And I realized if it was even just one person, it would have been completely worth it. So to loop back, don't put so much pressure on yourself that you have to have X amount of subscribers or make X amount of dollars. If you're impacting even a single person, even if that person is you in a positive way, it was worth it.
Yeah, because we learn and grow as we do this ourselves, right, Andrea?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
You learn so much.
I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. It's been a phenomenal experience. And I mean, I had the opportunity to meet you through this experience, and then hundreds of women who I keep in regular contact with through the Patreon community, through the master classes, and they're all over the world.
So many great people, and I feel the same way. And we wouldn't be having this conversation had it not been for YouTube and you teaching me how to sew. So it all comes around. You make a difference in people's lives, and that's what matters.
It is.
We talked a little bit about some of those limiting beliefs, but I think this is going to be the hot topic for a lot of people because it's what they think about when they think of starting a YouTube channel. There's a lot of logistics that we have to think about or consider when we're planning an episode. Like in my case, it's everything from setting up the interview and figuring out what the subject matter is going to be and how it's going to flow or what we're going to be discussing and things like that. And then you're not even talking about the back end part of it, which is editing and hosting and doing all this other stuff. What do you need people to know about or think about when they're starting a YouTube channel when it comes to planning for an episode?
In regards to my content, which is instructional based, I usually only teach tutorials that are my original designs. So there have been a few exceptions where we worked with patterns, but the majority of my content is also my original design, which usually means I have to develop the prototype because I've never even made most of these projects before. So I develop the prototype and then I have to simplify the process to fit definitely within an hour of edited footage. So that could mean you're recording for several hours, but you'll edit down to at least less than an hour. So I'll sew the prototype. If I'm happy with how that looks, then I'll recut it all out and record the content showing people how to assemble the design. And then after that, you have to edit, then you have to market the content, upload the content, reply to the comments, and then start all over again with the next piece. So it is time consuming.
So you figured out what the workflow will be to prepare each episode. And that could include things like what exactly are you going to be covering? And then, for example, in your case, let's say you're going to teach somebody how to sew a bag. Then you're going to design the bag and then you got to create it. And then you got to show people how to do it and record it and then edit it and put it out there. So you have, I would imagine, a workflow or a system that you now understand and are comfortable with that you've implemented so that whenever you put out an episode, you know exactly how it's going to go from start to finish, right?
I do, yeah.
And that comes through experience.
It does, yeah. And if you can create some continuity, at least for the channel, especially if you're just going to make videos, I think it's important to have some topics so people know I'm coming here and this is what I can expect. So for me, the topic was sewing, and initially I refined that to learning how to sew, but I think we've significantly expanded that to sewing inspiration. And then this year we're expanding even more to just creativity. Creativity would have been too broad to start with. If you start with really specific content, I think it's easier because otherwise you're not going to get that flow that you talked about and know what you need to do. So every once in a while I can wander off the path, but I do find most people are, do they say, creatures of comfort? And they really do like you to stay on your path and give them what they're expecting.
They do. And in fact, if you change it, they'll go, wait, where's my sewing episode? Why are we talking about this? I want my sewing episode, because they literally wait for you to post and they're expecting something.
Yes. And I really began to realize that as I started acquiring favorite YouTubers, and then when they would go on vacation or some of them just leave, that is a common phenomenon on YouTube, just burnout, can't do it anymore, goodbye. So once I personally started becoming dependent on people to create content, I had a lot more empathy for my subscribers who didn't appreciate when I would just disappear for 3 weeks.
At least I'm learning this, is that you can pre-record several episodes up front. And that way, if you need a break or you need to have a window of time where you're not going to be able to record, you always have them ready to go and you can still put them up there and your audience doesn't know that you didn't necessarily record that yesterday.
I find too, as long as you announce what you're doing, like over the holidays, I wrapped up a series all about handmade gifts. And then I said, I'll see you all in the new year. And people could understand that and they were okay with that extended break because in part they were busy with their own holidays.
They're busy sewing, Andrea, frantically sewing to make sure they met all the deadlines.
A lot of them did. And I love seeing what they're doing with the information. It's so neat.
I sewed one of your gift bags, with the ribbon. Oh, I had so much fun making that project. It was fabulous. And so I get it. And we get so excited because you're like, oh, well, it's Christmas. I want to give this as a present. And we're following along with you. And it's just so much fun.
So they had still work to keep them busy. And now, too, I have hundreds of free tutorials in the archives. So it is easier to dig back and say, oh, in the meantime, you can sew this. But as you mentioned, too, you can pre-record content, which is a great option, too. If you can always just have at least one pre-recorded video in the hopper, per se, then if something does happen, you don't have that long absence.
How do you prepare for a video? When you're getting ready to turn on that camera, how do you mentally get yourself in line with that? Because like you were talking about, interruptions or distractions are the enemy when it comes to preparing content and putting yourself out there and being present in the moment. So do you have any best practices as to how you get yourself ready for that?
So I lock the door on the studio and then have everything I could need right there within an arm's reach. And the camera is on. Before I sit down, I've already made sure that everything's in the viewfinder and all of my tools are at hand. And then I take a few minutes, and I actually have footage of this in every tutorial, but I've never have shared it, where I just take a few minutes, breathe, put my palms together, and just set an intention that the content will be a blessing to those who receive it, as well as to myself, and may it bring light and creativity to all who watch. And that seems to work good for me.
That's wonderful, because again, you're putting yourself in the moment and you're really getting your mind focused on exactly what you're going to be providing to your audience at that time. And it just sets yourself up mentally to do your best for that one episode and not worry about anything else, yesterday or tomorrow. And you're just right there, here and now, giving your all to the people that are listening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wonderful. I love that. And so then I also know that you recently launched a t-shirt collection, and I love it because it encompasses a word that is very important to you, and that word is create. And it's what inspires you to be there and to help them and to motivate them and inspire them. And I know that you wanted to offer to the listeners to provide them with a link in the show notes, and they'll be able to sign up to win a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And they can pick their own color and size, and you'll send one out to them. And that's really nice of you, Andrea, to do, because those t-shirts are so wonderful and they're very inspirational to all of us who follow you. And I just love it. And I think they're going to love it too.
Oh, thank you. And I'm going to send you one as well as a thank you for this opportunity.
And I'm sending one to you too. We're doing a t-shirt swap. Isn't that awesome?
Thank you so much.
I'm so excited. That's going to be great.
I am too.
The last thing I wanted to ask you is, what is a best practice that you like to incorporate in your life when you wake up in the morning and you set yourself up because you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a friend, you are a teacher, you are a business owner. You play all these different roles in your life and there's lots going on. How do you set yourself up to prepare for the day so that you can be your best and do your best?
Well, the older I get, the earlier I'm waking up now. So naturally, I don't even use an alarm. I'm up sometime between 3 and 5 a.m. So being the overachiever that I am, I didn't want to waste any of that time. So I started thinking of things that I could do that would be productive at 3 a.m. And meditation is one of those practices that I can do at 3 a.m. and not disturb anyone. So when I wake up, the first thing I do is meditate, and then I journal whatever happens to be on my mind and review the goals that I have set for myself, not only for that day, but then for that week and that month. And what I find is if I get myself in a focused state of mind, that the rest of the day goes much better for me. So before I check emails, read comments, or answer anyone's questions, I know where I stand in my own space.
That's a wonderful best practice. If the listeners want to learn more about you, what you do, watch your YouTube channel, what is the best way for them to get a sense of who Andrea is about? Could you share like your website, your YouTube channel? Just give us some information about how listeners can learn more about you.
So if they head on over to Sewspire.com, there are links to the Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and the YouTube channel. On Fridays, I publish a blog post called Behind the Seams with Andrea, and that's an opportunity for viewers to get to know me on more of a personal level. And then on Tuesdays, I publish a new sewing tutorial. So there are 2 opportunities right there each week for us to connect. And then for subscribers who want even more than that, everyone's welcome to become a Sewspire patron. And with that comes a whole nother set of benefits and a lot more FaceTime and live chatting opportunities.
Andrea, I cannot thank you enough. I know how busy you are, and it's just been such an honor to have you on the show and be my guest and share your experiences and passion that you have for what you do. I'm just so grateful. And I know my listeners are just going to be thrilled to have learned and experienced what you're all about. I just want to share my sincerest gratitude for your knowledge and willingness to share it with all of us.
Oh, and thank you, Marissa, because it really is my pleasure. And I am so excited for you and this opportunity and what it's going to bring into your life, because I know it's going to be awesome.
Thank you, Andrea. Want to save yourself that trip to the market? Instacart delivers groceries in as little as 1 hour. They connect you with personal shoppers in your area to shop and deliver groceries from your favorite stores. Receive free delivery on your first order over $35. Just follow the link in the show notes to let Instacart know I sent you and help support the show. Instacart. Never step foot in a grocery store again. That's all for this episode of Live Blissed Out. Thanks for listening, and thanks to Andrea Chapman for being my guest. If you find value in our show, Please visit liveblissedout.com to reach out, subscribe, and share on social media. This show is made possible through listeners like you. Thank you. So long for now, and remember to keep moving forward.